John, today's question comes from Cathy. And Cathy said, I'm enjoying your recent podcast series on the perfect estate plan. I especially like the one you did on Medicaid. That was a good one. We got into some depth on that, didn't we? She says, here's my question. My dad and his wife live in California and both recently qualified for and are on Medicaid. Dad has some very bad memory issues and will most likely need to be in a care facility. His spouse still lives in their home. How do I help them be good stewards of their very limited funds? She may not be able to afford the house just on her Social Security. Are there attorneys that work on a pro bono basis? And how do I find them? Thanks for the good information you share. John, this sounds like this is right in your wheelhouse.
And by that, you mean giving away free advice?
No, being an attorney.
All right. So the short answer to the question of are there attorneys that work on a pro bono basis? So couple of things there. Mm-hmm. So there are legal aid. And I don't know specifically about California, but I 100%, I'd bet my whole wallet that just like in Texas where we have Lone Star Legal Aid, where you can go and for low-income people, they can get assistance with basic medical or basic legal stuff, right? They can get a power of attorney done, or they can get a will done, or maybe even an uncontested divorce, or help with a child custody matter or something like that, right? The problem is you're going to have generally the attorneys that are in a legal aid are going to be general practice, right? So they may or may not have any knowledge whatsoever of the intricacies of Medicaid rules, strategy, planning, that sort of thing. So is there some free advice out there? Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
The other thing that's possible, some very large firms. So, now I'm talking about your 500 lawyer firms, right? Your big firms. And they may have a department within there that does estate planning and may have 7, 8, 10 attorneys that do all of that. And many of those big firms, they track pro bono hours for their attorneys. And they use that for their marketing and, all of their stuff like that, right? Just not to say that, hey, we're not just this big tower law firm that charges $1,000 an hour. Look at how much free work we do.
Yeah.
You know, but that could work to your advantage if you were able to get to one of those people, because they probably are very well versed in some of this, if that's within that firm's specialty, and they may be willing to do some free stuff. But here's what I really would say. If you've got some general questions and stuff like that, I understand they have limited income, limited resources. But if you're trying to, if you want to be a good steward for them, spend a couple of $100 and go have a consultation with an elder law attorney. Go to the National Academy of Elder Law Attorneys. Find somebody in the area that is an absolute specialist in this. Call them up. Make an appointment to come in and discuss mom and dad. They're going to likely charge you a consultation fee, maybe $300, maybe $500. I don't know what the going rate is over there where you're at. Pay the money. Get the advice from the pro.
Yeah. Yep.
And then let them explain what the rules are, what situations to look out for. And frankly, if they have a suggestion, because like one of the things you're talking about is she may not be able to afford the house just on her Social Security. Well, what that's telling me is there's a very good likelihood that dad is going to end up in long-term care, and we're going to have a housing situation with mom, and it may very well be necessary to sell the house, but then you're going to have the proceeds from the sale of the house, and that's going to disqualify them from Medicaid, because where the house doesn't count, the cash would.
Right.
And there could be some very sophisticated planning that could be implemented in that situation. And here's what I would be looking at is like, okay, yes, I'm looking at their situation and saying that they don't have a lot of money. They live on their Social Security and all they've got is a house, right? But surely if they're going to be selling that house, you're going to be generating money, right? And it's California, so I mean, could be a lot of money for the sale of a house, but maybe not. Maybe let's just say it's $100,000. But if you can implement, if you've got it now, if the elder law attorney is saying, look, here's a situation where if what you're talking about happens, and you need to sell the house, here's a plan that we could do that would preserve the $100,000 from the sale of that house for mom's care, and we would charge a couple of $1,000.
Yeah, right.
Well, that's worth it, right? At that point, if you've got to spend a couple of $1,000 to save $100,000, that's worth it. So I understand that they are, you know, not wealthy people, but it does make sense to get good advice, and you generally are going to have to pay for it.
Yep, I would agree with that. You know, you can, as you mentioned, call around to some of the big firms, see if they have any pro bono hours left that they're willing to donate, and you'll probably get some decent advice there. Because even though if those people are the true experts in estate planning, which they likely are at some of the big firms, you know, I mean, the simple truth is, you know, unpaid help probably just isn't going to be the same quality as if you were paying their $500 an hour.
You know, and I did think of just one thing real quick. It just popped into my head. You know, my daughter is just graduating from law school.
Mm-hmm. This month, right?
This month.
Oh,
yeah.
Excellent.
Yep. And this last semester, she has been doing a pro bono clinic at the law school.
Mm-hmm.
And hers is in particular is in the kind of wills and trusts area. And people can come in and get estate planning done. Now, it's being done by law students who don't know squat.
Yeah.
It's being supervised by the professor.
Right.
Who does know things, right? So the other thing you might do, if you live near a university that has a law school, you might check with the law school and see if they have a pro bono clinic in an elder law field, or if not elder law exactly, maybe in estate planning, wills and trusts, they may at least be able to have some carryover knowledge.
Right.
So there's another option. I just thought about that just, you know, with my daughter graduating law school. It popped in my head. So that's
an excellent tip.
Yeah.
So, you know, you've got the big firms that may have pro bono. You've got some of the law schools that may be doing this for some practice. But in a case like this that's fairly simplified, you know, that's likely going to be okay as well.
And you know, even like, so my daughter's in this wills and trusts clinic, and it's specifically, it's about wills and trusts, but it's low income people, right? So my daughter calls me and she says, "Hey, Dad, I had this lady come in and you know, her main asset is a house, and she wanted to get a will done, but I've heard you talking about Medicaid estate recovery and things like that, and you know, the professor mentioned maybe we should, you know, maybe I should talk to her about a ladybird deed." And I'm like, you're probably right, a ladybird deed, but not just that. You should do a ladybird deed to trust, which is the way we like to do it. And I explained to her all the reasons why. She took that back to her professor, and the professor thought, "Well, that was a brilliant idea, young Jillian."
Yes.
Of course, Jillian didn't tell her, you know, that she got all that information.
Not.
But one of my points is that, you know, you might even get lucky, and you're talking to the law student whose parent is an absolute expert in the field and is sending their child to law school so that they can also carry on in their footsteps.
Yes.
You might just get lucky.
You never know.
You never know, right?
One thing that will assure you don't get lucky is to do nothing.
Is to do nothing. That's right.
Is to go, well, they're too expensive. We're not going to even look. So let's just hope everything works out.
And generally, I would say the legal aid is probably not going to get you there.
Yeah.
With the general practice lawyer, you're not going to get.
So if you exhaust those options, going to the big firm in the tower, going to the law school, then the other option is going to be to just hire somebody for an hour or two of their time and get their eyes on it.
Right.
They may spot some blind areas that you didn't know existed there, and they'll be able to show you a few things that could save you a lot of money, especially with something like that, selling the house.
And if and again, these could be combined too, right? I mean, if I paid the attorney to the absolute expert to tell me what their suggestion was, right?
Yeah.
Maybe now I can take that to the low-income clinic at the law school and make some suggestions.
Yeah, right.
Some educated recommendations to that law student and his or her professor.
Yes.
And they could go, wow, that actually, yes, that does sound like a good idea.
You've been doing
and
your
we can
research.
do that for you, which would be part of our pro bono clinic. So there you go.
Excellent. Very good.
Cool.
Kathy, that was an excellent question. Thank you for asking that. And John, for any of our listeners that want to ask us a question, where do they go?
They go to the website.
BigPictureRetirement.com, top right-hand corner. I think it's still on the top right-hand corner.
I think so.
I'm not sure where it is mobile. And a lot of our people are going to the mobile website now.
It's on there somewhere.
It's somewhere. You might have to hit the 3 bars, but you'll find it. It says ask a question. You can send your question in there. And John, I'll have to admit, I checked yesterday. Our listeners aren't going to be real happy with this. You're probably not going to like it. We've got 130 questions backed up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
we're going to have to get on it.
Well, last summer, all of our episodes were nothing but listener questions. And this is why we were trying to get caught up.
And we did.
And yet we started doing an inbox episode to do these questions. And here we are with 130 questions. So if you have sent your question in and we haven't answered that, that's fine. There's a lot.
Okay.
There's a lot. Very good. All right. Thank you for listening.